Who is this guy who's actually talking today to you about automotive digital forensics? Well, my name is Kevin Gomez Buquerin. I'm a PhD candidate at the Technical University in Ingolstadt and also at the Friedrich Alexander University Erlangen-Nuremberg, both in Germany. My research area is digital forensics or automotive digital forensics. But today I don't want to talk to you about myself. I want to talk about someone who came here together with me. This little guy. This is Pete. And Pete is an employee at an automotive insurance company. His main tasks at this company is to perform automotive digital forensic investigations. And he's pretty new in this field, like most of the people who are actually working at this field, because it's kind of a new research topic. And he is basically wondering how he's going to approach all those new technologies in modern vehicles. He's also very interested in questions regarding the data assets which can be found in modern vehicles. And corresponding to both, he's keen on all the different forensic investigations. Because modern vehicles are very complex systems and they introduce different technologies, data assets, components, services, and so on. And the main questions are very different between the different stakeholders that actually ask the question. And Pete is not that stupid. He knows that he is one of those stakeholders, and he's also wondering, are there any other stakeholders? And the same research questions which I just mentioned, or same questions which I just mentioned from Pete, are the research question I ask myself too. Which are the stakeholders in automotive digital forensics? Is there only the insurance company one? Are there more? Which stakeholders are there? And the second question is, what actually are the questions those stakeholders are asking? So what forensic questions are they interested in? So I'm already talking about automotive digital forensics. It's a fancy word, new term. So what is this even about, what I'm talking about? So automotive digital forensics is, or at least automotive digital forensics stakeholders, at least people or entities that have a significant negative or a significant positive influence on the automotive forensics domain. In case of automotive digital forensics, it's not only looking at the components within the vehicle itself, so not the airbag ECU or the infotainment system, which you can see within the car directly. It's also looking at the infrastructure, the vehicle ecosystem, so everything connected to the vehicle. But how do you actually start? We start with brainstorming sessions within our methodology. This allows us to get a foundation on specific on specific stakeholders, and those stakeholders can then be used to dive more into the specific needs of those stakeholders and their interests, and especially their forensic questions. But what is truly interesting here is that just by looking at different stakeholders, there is not a connection to the automotive domain. And the question is here, how do you actually get this connection to the automotive domain? Through the vehicle lifecycle. Because the vehicle lifecycle basically defines which step, let's say in design, development, implementation, manufacturing, and afterlife, and so on, what step the vehicle is currently in, or a specific component is currently in. And it's depending on the component or the phase, the different questions that arise. So different stakeholders are located in different positions for the vehicle life cycle, so they ask different questions, and maybe similar questions can be asked in one specific step of the vehicle life cycle. The next interesting part is their interests. So not only their forensic questions they're asking, but also their interests on the information what they want to collect from vehicles and their ecosystem. So what are they really, really interested in that forensic or automotive digital forensics aims to resolve? So what questions and what assets are they really keen on? So this all leads us to the forensic questions. So this is also a very interesting part of the brainstorming sessions and corresponding to the stakeholders. So what are the questions they're interested in? The actual questions. Are there similarities between different stakeholders or not? Which leads us to validation, which actually gets into hand with comparison. So validation and comparison both are comparing the different stakeholders, asking stakeholders evaluating if the stakeholders which we present the interests are correct, the forensic questions are correct, their position on the vehicle life cycle is correct, all the stuff. So now we have a good foundation, a good methodology which we can work with. And then Peter is able to then collect all the different stakeholders and validate them. To answer the final question, is he the only one who is interested in automotive digital forensics or not? So on our side, we performed brainstorming sessions. In brainstorming session 1, we had 1 professor, 4 PhD students and 1 master students, all in academia, all performing research in the area of automotive automotive security. Brainstorming session 2 consists of 4 PhD students, 1 tier 1 employee and 1 OEM employee. Session 3 consists also of 1 insurance company employee, 1 tier 1 employee and 2 OEM employees and also 2 PhD students. It's important to note that, for example, our PhD student, 1 specific person, is not part of session 1 and session 3. They're all different people in this brainstorming session, so there are no overlaps of people. And there we have it. Different stakeholders we identified throughout the brainstorming sessions. So, looks like a lot: researcher, supplier, insurance, mobility provider. Well, that's good work, right? But to be honest, it looks kind of complex, kind of unorganized. So, what would you say? Just organize it. Just put it into something which is more adaptable for future work. This is where we decided to use a Venn diagram. A Venn diagram allows us to categorize different entities into different closed curves. Those are the circles here, A, B, and C. For closed curve A, we have trustworthiness, functionality, and law. Closed curve B groups different stakeholders which are interested in protection and security, and C groups people or stakeholders which are interested in hacking vehicles, misuse, tampering. So let's see how we can categorize them and what the result is. So insurer and approval authority. Both are pretty much interested that laws are fulfilled, that the vehicle is safe in operating and functioning and so on. The business car owner is more on the side of the customer or their employees. So their data must be really secured. And the criminal, obvious, they want to attack the vehicle, misuse, enable features where they didn't pay for. OEM researchers, supplier, and legal institution are somewhat between A and B. So they, on the one hand side, want to adapt different, want to have safe and functional vehicles that fulfill also the law, but also want to have secure vehicles that are protected from attackers, such as the criminal. The tuner is between A and B. So they want a functional car that also fulfills laws because they offer products to their customers. But also on the C side, so they want to enable features, they want to performance increases. The government organization is between B and C. They, on the one hand side, want to protect vehicles of their government fleet. But they also want to attack vehicles of foreign countries, which they are not very happy with. So their interest is between B and C. And C, or all together, so A, B, and C in a mixture, is private car owner and the mobility provider. They want something from all the different closed curves we identified. But there are some limits. And we also need validation, because I showed this before. So to validate if the grouping is correct and also the list of stakeholders, including their interests, the forensic questions, is correct, we interviewed the stakeholders. So we got to people that we know are working at the company, which for example is an insurance company, a T1 employee, and asked them specifically, get some information from your company, from your domain, and is everything we are currently stating correct for the specific stakeholder? So we interviewed 8 out of 12 different stakeholders and asked them if everything is fine. They showed us that our results we collected are valid. So we showed validity for all the different interviews. They added some new information or things we forgot, or pointed out that some errors occurred. So we updated our information that you can find in the paper. But there's some limits, because as you can already see, 8 of 12 stakeholders, there's some stakeholders missing. So we were not able to perform interviews for criminals, the government organization, the approval authority, and also on, let me look into it, I'm sorry, the tuner. So tuner, government organization, criminal, and approval authority. We were not able to interview them, sadly. And also this list we presented and the categorization is only a snapshot. The automotive domain is pretty complex. It's changing all the time. New features, new services, new vehicles. So we need to perform such an evaluation regularly and group them into the different structures and different areas. But that's not that hard, because we already provided foundation or methodology how to add a specific new stakeholder into a new group, or move another stakeholder which is already presented, or which was already presented, to another group, if, for example, the interests change. And we only focus on stakeholders that are relevant for automotive digital forensics. There's a lot of similarities between stakeholders which are interested in automotive security or offensive automotive security, let's say pen testing, with stakeholders from automotive digital forensics. But in our case, we only look at automotive digital forensics. There's other good work with which focuses on the other areas. So at the beginning, I showed you Pete. And Pete was wondering, are there any other entities, any other people that are interested in automotive digital forensics? Do they ask similar questions, other questions that he's asking as an insurance employee? And our answer is yes, there are. We identified 12 unique automotive digital forensic stakeholders. We presented their forensic questions, their available resources, and their position in the vehicle lifecycle. We also grouped them within a Venn diagram. This allowed us to spot similarities, but also spot differences. This methodology we presented also allows us to adapt or include new stakeholders, or adapt current stakeholders if the interests are changing or something within the automotive industry is changing drastically. So Pete is now pretty happy because he knows that there are a lot of people that have similar interests in him. So this work allows us to collaborate between the different stakeholders and make in investigations by presenting new tools the most out of our research, because we perform research from a perspective for the stakeholders. So this gets the mode of our research if we look for the stakeholders' questions and actually addressing their needs. Thank you very much.